So welcome to Behance. This is a popular place for designers alike to post their design work and branding projects. And we're going to create and post one right here on Behance using everything we put together so far for the client presentation. We're going to tweak it slightly to make it a better portfolio presentation. So we talked about the differences between a portfolio presentation and a client presentation. It's going to be a little less wordy and it's going to be a little bit more showy, I guess you could say, because you really want to wow people. You don't want to have too much readable type. You want to have a little bit of explanation behind your concept, absolutely, but you want to kind of keep it brief. And let's study a couple of quick examples of what we see on here. So I'm going to type in a simple word. Let's do brand design and just kind of see what kind of presentations pop up. So a lot of times you'll have a little bit of a brief introduction. So in this identity system and package design project, there's just a brief paragraph that talks about kind of the concept and what the project was, what did they satisfy with the client brief, just a quick little kind of introduction. A lot of them put this after maybe a wow photo, so they'll put like this wow, almost like a cover photo in the front. Then they'll put kind of this paragraph of information. So everyone kind of does it a little bit differently. But as I scroll through this, you see the product design, you see the logo presentation. You're seeing these very clean pages. Everything's very clean and simple. You know, they're not throwing a whole lot at you. It's almost like they're telling a story as you move down. You notice how it's less talking about the user persona. It's not really talking about all that stuff. It's kind of just presenting it in a very visual way. So this is a really fun branding project that they have. They introduce it with the logo and they kind of move down and then they show it right on a mock-up. So you see how quickly we move to the practical application part. In terms of a portfolio presentation, it happens a lot sooner. There's not all that background. So this is just different typography elements. And they're showing the typography in action in a more visual way. So instead of saying, well, we're using this and it's 22 points, it's kind of showing it in more practical applications and then showing a real project photo. So they did a lot of custom type work here and they're showing it off. So this one starts off, like I mentioned before, with kind of a wow photo. So you get to see the logo and the typography here on this little tag. And then it goes into a little description of what it is. You can't leave that out. You have to have some kind of description of what it is you're doing. We can't just put a bunch of Sushi Club mock-ups and say, there you go, have fun. If there's not a story or a setup, if you will, then it's going to just be a couple of meaningless mock-ups. It's not going to have some of the background that we need. But see how kind of brief it is. And you can even intertwine this. So you can have a little bit of information and then have a photo, and then have another little place of information here between the photos. So there's a lot of interesting ways to say a lot of background, but without having this big old paragraph of copy either. There's ways to integrate that slowly in the presentation. So this is a really neat way to show their colors as well, through kind of more visual way to show it. And they're showing a process photo, which I think is important for any portfolio presentation, to show a process photo, a sketch, or a brainstorming session, just some kind of visual to help you do that. And also another great portfolio piece is to do kind of one of these, kind of where you're arranging multiple projects. So remember when we did the client presentation, we had the chopsticks, we had the menu, we had a phone, we had, kind of had these layered items. And when you see them all together, they seem like a more unified branding set. So I highly encourage you to kind of incorporate at least one of those in your portfolio presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a series of different artboards. We're in Adobe Photoshop. You could do this in any program. The only reason I'm using Adobe Photoshop instead of, let's say, Illustrator and other program is because this is going to be a very mock-up heavy presentation. And so a lot of mock-ups are in Photoshop, or I created them in Photoshop. So it's going to be easier to integrate and layer all these things together using Photoshop. But we can always go back into Illustrator in our client presentation to be able to drag things in that we're going to need. So I have several series of artboards here that we're going to create. The sizing of a Behance portfolio presentation. They say it's 1400 pixels in width when you scroll through it, but you can click on the image and it zooms in a little bit. So because of that, I feel comfortable making it 1600 pixels in width. So I'm going to make it 1600 pixels in width. You could even make it bigger because it'll just size it down for you, but I like to keep that horizontal presentation and do like that horizontal presentation. I'm going to keep these super high resolution. They support really, I think, up to 50 megabytes per image. So you can do these really high res, which is what we want to do, and keep it in RGB color mode. So just create. And I'm going to go use my artboard tool, just right here in artboard tool. I'm going to add several artboards moving downward, just like you would see in a Behance portfolio presentation. It'd just be a downward movement of the artboards. So I'm going to click up here to add. It says add new artboard. And I'm going to click one right here and just go down, down. I don't want to make these too long. You see some really epically long ones on Behance. I don't want to keep it that long. I'm just going to do 8. If I can't fit it all in 8, then it's just too much. So I'm going to do 8 for now. And for the first one, so for the client presentation, we had kind of a gentle introduction to the brand by using the logo. I want to do the same thing. I want to do what I think is the full version of the logo in all its glory, like the examples, just a simple logo on the front. So I can take my logo system here. I got everything I need to put this together. Let's put it on black. So we're just going to take this white version, bring it in, and let's get the rectangle tool and do a darker background color. Let's sample. We have everything here ready that we can, so we have all of our colors here. So let's just sample the hex code color here and paste it in. I love this cool texture, and it was from this Graphic Burger mock-up right here. I'm just going to borrow this for my presentation. Make sure to give credit if you need to give credit. Just take a look at the credentials if you need to give credit to the artist for this, but I don't think those need it, but just double check. So I'm just going to be able to hold down Option or Alt and be able to clip that to the logo. And the reason I did that is I just wanted to add a little pizzazz to that kind of introduction. The Sushi Club, that little gold elements in it. It's not something I would put in the client presentation because that's not the texture that we use, but this isn't for client approval. This is to show off what we did. This is where portfolio presentations start to be different than client presentations. I can manipulate this how I feel I would want the brand to be. So if I want to see it in gold, I could put it in gold. That wasn't what I did with the client, but this is where we can tweak it if we feel like we want to make it better, because this is based on what the client wants, the client presentation. This is based on, what I want to see the brand be like. This is my most desired version of the brand. I can even use a different concept if I wanted to, but this is your project, your presentation. This is what you're putting on your portfolio. So you want to make sure that you have it how you want to present it. And also, just one little side note, just make sure you have permission from the client to use their name and their brand on a portfolio presentation. Sometimes they might have an NDA or a do not disclose pact. Maybe there's a company that hasn't been launched yet and they're secretive about maybe a brand refresh. So you just need to be very careful if you use a real client project that you have permission to use their what you developed online, because I thought that looked really good on that slate color. So this is what I'm going to do. I could just present the logo like this, like we've seen before, and just have a simple Sushi Club. Maybe there's a background black and white image that we can use. Maybe do that circular text, something we can overlay here. You could even bring in a mock-up of an iPad and kind of integrate a photo of some sort. You can put chopsticks. I think I have some chopsticks I took a picture of. These are chopsticks I took a picture of when I was doing my research, and I crossed them over to be the same shape of the logo. Just kind of finding little elements to make it rich. So in this case, I'm going to bring this rounded portion, bring it in as a little watermark here. Just like this, and I might need to make it a little different of a color so it stands out, and just kind of I basically copied and pasted my chopsticks here so that I can kind of lay them. It's kind of, because you're seeing some of the brand elements on it. It's kind of showing it off as well as presenting it with the logo. So just some different ideas. It could be that a photo looks really good, so I can go into my photo library that I have.